الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في كلامه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الناس قد جاءتكم موعظة من ربكم وشفاء لما في الصدور وهدى ورحمة للمؤمنين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, there are many verses in the Quran that describe the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal describes the impact of the Quran and what is the Quran. But the most descriptive verse, in my opinion, is Surah Yunus, Surah number 10, ayat number 57, where Allah Azza wa Jal states, Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind. The verse itself starts off with a blast. O mankind, قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. Indeed, maw'idah has come from your Lord. Maw'idah is the first of 4 words Allah uses to describe the Quran in this ayah. Maw'idah is admonishment, wa'ad, nasiha, something to soften the hearts, because the hearts need to be soft, need to become a receptacle for the truth. And the Quran will serve as that softener. If you put seeds on hard ground that has not been tilted, that has not been fertilized, those seeds would go to waste. You fertilize the ground, now you put any seed in, the seed will grow. So the heart needs to become soft. And Quran will do that. It will soften the heart. Because sometimes hearts do become hard. And Allah describes in Surah Baqarah, ثُمَّ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُكُمْ Bani Israel, that your heart became hard. مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَةِ أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً. They became hard like hijara, hajar, hijara, like rocks, or even harder than rocks. Then Allah describes, وَإِنَّ مِنَ الْحِجَارَةِ لَمَا يَتَفَجَّرُ مِنْهُ الْأَنْهَارُ وَإِنَّ مِنْهَا لَمَا يَشَّقَّقُ فَيَخْرُجُ مِنْهُ الْمَاءُ وَإِنَّ مِنْهَا لَمَا يَهْبِطُ مِنْ خَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ. There are some rocks that water gushes out of. There are some rocks that fall from the fear of Allah. You see that sign on the road? Beware falling rocks. I know there's a science behind why those rocks fall, but rocks also fall from the fear of Allah. So hearts become hard like rocks, and Quran will soften, will fertilize the ground and soften those hearts. The next word is shifa'ul lima fis sudur, a cure for the illnesses of the heart, a cure for what is in the heart. Because now there's a beautiful connection between these 4 words. Now, since the hearts are soft and ready, now what you would say, Quran can act as a medicine and cure the heart. Before the softening of the heart, Quran would not have its impact, because that it could have, because the heart is hard. Now it will cure the illnesses of the heart. Shifa kulli ma fis sudur. And what are the illnesses of the heart? Jealousy, animosity, hatred, greed, love of this world, pride, arrogance, looking down upon others. There are sins of the flesh, but the sins of the flesh, like adultery and theft and murder, sins of the flesh, they happen because of the sins of the heart. It is because of greed that a person commits murder, or because of greed that a person commits theft. So shifa'ul lima fis sudur. Now the hearts are cured from the illnesses, from the spiritual illnesses, diseases of the heart. Now what? Then comes the third word. Wahudan, and Quran is guidance. Now, since you are free from ego and arrogance and pride and greed, now you will act upon the Quran. Quran will serve as a guidance, a guide in your individual life and a guide in our collective life. Quran will serve as a guide for every aspect of our life, from the mundane to the most complex communal aspect. Quran will act as a guide. Wahudan. Now comes the fourth and final word Allah uses in this ayah, wa rahmah, and a mercy. Again, a beautiful connection. Now, since you have taken the Quran as a guide, Quran is your guide, now Quran will be a source of mercy. Rahmah. Wa rahmatul lil mu'min. Mercy in this world and a mercy in the hereafter. Again, the verse, O mankind, قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. Indeed, admonishment has come from your Lord, and a cure for that which is in the hearts, and guidance and mercy for the believer. Quran is miraculous in its nature, i'jaz al-Quran. And there are many ways that the Quran is miraculous. The way that millions of Muslims have memorized the Quran. And there are records that have been set. Imam Muhammad Hassan Shaybani memorized the Quran in 7 days. Maulana Qasim Nanotwi, he was traveling for Hajj with a group by ship not too long ago from India. And there was Ramadan came. They would start months before to go for Hajj. There was no Hafiz who could lead them in Taraweeh. He said, what a shame, we are going for Hajj and we are not able to finish the Quran in Taraweeh. He memorized 1 juz in the morning and recited it in the evening in Taraweeh. Miraculous. How Allah has protected the Quran. That's from the miraculous nature of the Quran. How we find scientific truths in the Quran. That's from the miraculous nature of the Quran. The fasaha, the balagha, the eloquence of the Quran. The rhetoric, the beautiful rhetoric, that is from the miraculous nature of the Quran. Many of us are not able to appreciate the eloquence of the Quran because we are far from the Arabic language. But Labid, who accepted Islam during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and he lived for many years after because he died when he was 101 years old, Labid. He's one of the most famous poets of Arabia. And Makkans, what they would do, the Quraysh, is if one poet had come up with extraordinary poetry, unparalleled to any other poet, then that poetry would be hung on the wall of the Kaaba. And that poetry would stay on the wall of the Kaaba till there was some other poet who brought poetry equal. Some other poet in caliber, same caliber, who brought poetry as good as that poetry or better, then the first one would be taken down, and now this one would be hung on the Kaaba. All in all, there were 7 poems that were hung on the Kaaba. They're called 𝘊𝙁𝙁𝙊𝙁. It's a textbook that is taught in the madrasa, like how Shakespeare is learned in college. 𝘊𝙁𝙁𝙁, which means the 7 hung poetry. Labid, he was one of the poets whose poetry was hung on the Kaaba. He accepted Islam. And Umar radiallahu anhu asked him, "O Labid, we don't hear you say poetry anymore." He said, "Ba'd al-Quran?" After Quran? What poetry is there to be said after the Quran? The Quran is the final say. End of story. Anyhow, but the most miraculous nature is the way Quran has an impact on every single one of us simply when we listen to the Quran. And we are here in Taraweeh prayer night after night listening to the beautiful recitation of the Quran. This is also part of the miraculous nature and how it affects us. How it brings such tranquility and peace which is undescribable in word. And what happens, what do you think happened when people heard the Quran for the very first time? Many of them would convert. Umar radiallahu an heard Taha ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'ana litashqa illa tadhkiratan liman yakhsha tanzilan mimman khalaqa al-arda was-samawati al-ula ar-Rahmanu ala al-arshi istawa. And he said, I'm down. I give up. Accepted Islam. Jubair ibn Mut'im, he heard Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam reciting Surah Tur in Maghrib prayer. Wat-Tur wa kitabim mastur fi raqqim manshur wal baytil ma'mur was saqfil marfu wal bahril masjur. And he accepted Islam. Najashi, he heard Ja'far bin Abi Talib, the brother of Ali radiallahu anh, reciting Quran, right, in Ethiopia. And what happened? Tears started to flow down the cheeks of Najashi. And Quran describes, وَإِذَا سَمِعُوا مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ تَرَى أَعْيُنَهُمْ تَفِيضُ مِنَ الدَّمْعِ مِمَّا عَرَفُوا مِنَ الْحَقِّ. When they hear what has been revealed to the messenger, you will see that their eyes are shedding tears because of the fact that they recognize this is the truth from their Lord. Jinn, when they heard the Quran, وَإِذْ صَرَفْنَا إِلَيْكَ نَفَرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ يَسْتَمِعُونَ الْقُرْآنَ فَلَمَّا حَضَرُوهُ قَالُوا أَنْصِتُوا فَلَمَّا قُضِيَ وَلَّوْا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِمْ مُنذِرِينَ. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was reciting Quran. A group of jinn, they heard him. And they said, hold on, this is something different. Hold on, wait, this is something new, something different. And they heard the Quran and they accepted Islam. But even more powerful and more miraculous than the impact the Quran has when we listen to it is the ability of the Quran to change our lives. To change our lives for the better. It has the potential to change our life. If we only allow it, if we open our hearts, if we take the admonishment of the Quran to heart, if we understand the Quran, if we reflect upon the Quran, it will change our life. Yes, it's a life changer. As you say, game changer, it's a life changer. What turned Abu Bakr into Abu Bakr is Siddiq? The Quran. What turned Umar ibn Khattab to Umar Farooq? The Quran. The 313 that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam presented in the battle of Badr, cream of the crop, ready to take on batil, falsehood. And battle of Badr happened in the month of Ramadan. What happened? How did those 313 come about? Did they just drop from the sky? What made those 313 who they were? It was the Quran. Quran is powerful, yes. When it is in our life, when we are practicing upon the Quran, when we have implemented the Quran, then you will see the true power of the Quran. Let me give you an example. If I give you a bullet, one of those big ones that can bring down an elephant, and I say to you, this bullet can kill an elephant, and you take that bullet and you see a mouse, and you throw that bullet at the mouse, and it doesn't even scratch the mouse, and the mouse runs away. and you come to me and say, you said this bullet can kill an elephant. It is powerful. It did not even scratch the mouse. I will say, you will have to put the bullet where? In the gun, in the rifle, in the magazine. Now, that same bullet, when you shoot it at an elephant, it will bring the elephant down. Quran is powerful. When? How? When it is in our life. If Quran has been implemented, it is in our lives, then it is powerful. That is true. Quran is powerful. But its power will be displayed when we have put the Quran into practice. 𝘾𝙊𝙉𝙏𝘾𝙏, rahmatullah alayhi, one of the great scholars of India who opposed the British during colonialism. British were the masters. India was a colony. He opposed them, so they put him in jail in Malta. Imagine a big scholar himself, mufassir of the Quran, after having spent many years in jail, and the British finally released him. He came out of the British prison, and the first speech he gave, he said, I have come to this conclusion after many years of contemplation and the knowledge that Allah has given me of Quran and Sunnah. I have come to this conclusion that the reason for the situation of the Muslim Ummah, the deteriorated state that we are in, is because of two reasons. Why we are in the rut that we are in. Number one, disunity. Our disunity. Number two, our distance from the Quran. Our disunity and our distance from the Quran are the two chief or main causes for our situation, for the situation of the Muslim Ummah. So in this month, let us make an oath to ourselves and to Allah that we will bring the Quran into our life. There's one verse which is very near and dear. Alam ya'ni lilladhina amanu. Allah is addressing the believers. Not the munafiqeen, not the mushrikeen, the believers. Has not the time yet come for the believers that an takhsha'a qulubuhum, that their hearts become soft to the remembrance of Allah and what He has revealed. وَلَا يَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابِ, and do not be like those people of the book who received the revelation. فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَدُ, a long time passed over them. فَقَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ, and their heart became hard. وَكَثِيرٌ مِّنْهُمْ فَاسِقٌ. The more time passes, my dear brothers and sisters, the more time passes without the Quran in our life, the more hard our hearts become. And the more difficult it becomes to change. فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَدُ, long time passes. Time is passing, and the more the years go by, the more difficult it will become. We have to make this decision sooner than later, that yes, Quran will be my guide. Yes, Quran will be it will be my anchor. Quran will be my source of energy. Quran will be my love, my most beloved. And Quran will be the number one occupation that takes most of my free time. Most of my leisure time will be spent on the Quran. I will read the Quran, I will reflect upon the Quran, and I will implement the Quran and bring the Quran into my life. May Allah Azza wa Jal make it easy for all of us. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ. Please pray yourself.